We'll talk a little Michigan recruiting for the next 15 to 20 minutes. Like I said, I wanted to start doing these on a weekly basis. So we're definitely going to start doing them. If you missed it at the top, I'm EJ Holland with thewolverine.com, which, by the way, you can subscribe for $1 for 1 year to get all your latest Michigan recruiting information. Just going to touch on some key subjects going on in the world of Michigan recruiting right now. But as always, you can definitely chime in, get your questions in, request to be a speaker, and I'll let you guys in. Hopefully this week we can avoid the Michigan State trolls, and hopefully we can also avoid the Notre Dame trolls. So yeah, but just to start off, obviously it's the evaluation period, a lot going on with Michigan recruiting. So I wanted to touch on some of those key stops that the staff's made so far this week. Starting off with Ron Bellamy, who's been a monster on the recruiting trail. He was down in Oklahoma yesterday and stopped at Booker T. Washington, which is where Michigan was able to reel Dax Hill when he was a big-time recruit. Obviously, they're going after Micah T's on 300 athlete, who's a really interesting guy. He's a prospect that can play wide receiver. He can play in the defensive backfield, just a really dynamic athlete. Michigan's pushing hard to get him in for an official visit. Ron Bellamy's kind of leading the way in that recruitment since he's a little bit of a tweener, but we could easily see him playing wide receiver at the next level. I think the Dax Hill connection definitely helps. And I think Dax Hill just overall in Oklahoma kind of opened eyes like, hey, you can be a big time prospect. You don't have to stay and necessarily play for Oklahoma. You can go out and expand and broaden your horizons. And I think Tease kind of sees that with Hill. And I would expect Michigan to very much be in contention for an official visit there. So Bellamy was there to see him. He also saw Jacoby Johnson, who's the guy we haven't talked a lot about. And with Jacoby, he's another really, really interesting prospect. He's a guy that was actually more of a basketball recruit with some mid-major offers and didn't really decide to focus in on football here until recently. And now that he has, I mean, he's the number one ranked athlete in the entire country by On3, the number 40 overall prospect in the nation. 6'3", 170 pounds. Just another one of those guys that can play either side of the ball. Obviously, Bellamy went out to see him, so he's more on the wide receiver board, but he can be a bigger defensive back as well. And again, just both Tease and Johnson are dynamic athletes that seem willing to leave the state and aren't necessarily tied down to being Oklahoma guys or even Oklahoma State guys. So I really like the fact that Bellamy's trying to pull those elite talents out of the state of Oklahoma. So again, guys, if you're just joining in as a listener, touching on the latest on Michigan recruiting, the coaching staff making the rounds, seeing some key targets. You guys can chime in with any questions that you have and switch up the flow. You're willing to or you're allowed to come on and just ask any questions you all have and request to be speakers. But sticking with Bellamy really quick, one other prospect I want to mention is Kenyan Siddique. He went out to Idaho. Bellamy went out to Idaho, where Michigan found success last cycle. Obviously, went out there and landed 4-star tight end Colston Loveland. So Michigan returning to Idaho this time. Bellamy going out there to see Kenyan Siddique. He's only a 3-star prospect, but he's super, super intriguing. 6'3", 210 pounds, runs a sub 11 100 meter. So he's starting to get a lot more attention on the trail. I talked to a source in the Michigan program. They called him an absolute freak. They love this kid. They're trying to get him in for an official visit. I think that'll happen. So it looks like I might be making a return trip out to Idaho. I really enjoyed my time out there seeing Loveland last cycle. And with Michigan being a factor for Siddique, I think I'm going to make my way back there this cycle. So, Bellamy was in the Carolinas this morning, and the staff's been getting all around. But like I said, I wanted to touch on more of the key stops. One interesting area that Michigan hit yesterday was Dallas. Steve Klingscale was out in the Lone Star State. Went out there to see Malik Mohammed, top 100 cornerback out of South Oak Cliff. Um, Mohammed is one of my favorite prospects in the class just from a pure football skill set. I saw him really early on when he was a young kid while I was still on the Texas beat at a 7-on-7 tournament, and he was just a dynamic playmaker as a cornerback. I mean, he was out there as a freshman, I believe, at the Pylon 7-on-7 tournament in Las Vegas, and was an absolute playmaker on the back end against some of the best competition nationally and guys much older than him. He's really developed and come along. He spent a year at IMG Academy with Keon Saab and transferred back to South Oak Cliff, which is an inner city school in Dallas, and helped them win a state championship, which was absolutely phenomenal to see, just being a Dallas guy myself. But yeah, I love what Mohammed brings to the table. Klingscale obviously making him a really high priority. Um, as far as where things stand, Michigan made his top 6 yesterday, so just hours after Klingscale stopped by to see him, he released the top 6 that included Michigan. Um, I think schools like Texas A&M, Alabama, Florida are going to be tough to beat in this recruitment. Um, a lot of it, I think, has to do with NIL and how much Michigan's willing to invest in NIL. I think this is going to be an NIL heavy recruitment, and this isn't just me making assumptions. I mean, Malik has been on record stating that NIL will be a factor. So I'm interested to see how much Michigan improves in that department. You've seen Michigan trying to make strides in the NIL sphere with the Victors Exchange and Valiant doing a really good job. But from just a pure recruiting standpoint, uh, Michigan is restricted a bit, just general NCAA rules, but also I'm not sure if Michigan will ever, play in the same ballpark as Texas A&M. So we'll kind of see how that recruitment kind of turns out. While he was in the Dallas area, Klink also saw Peyton Bowen, a top 100 defensive back from Denton Guyer. Another great program in the Dallas area. Guyer plays in the highest classification, made a run to the state title game before losing to national power Austin Westlake. But he went out there to see Bowen, and Bowen is obviously willing to leave the region. He's committed to Notre Dame, committed to the Irish in January. He's recently said that he's still solid to Notre Dame, but has made some visits elsewhere. I believe he was at Texas A&M not too long ago. I talked to him at the Under Armour camp in Dallas last month, and Bowen told me he was really excited about the Michigan offer. He's developing a good relationship with Steve Klingscale. They were a little late to offer, obviously offering after he committed to Notre Dame, but he is open to a visit. He is a top priority. Obviously, Klink is spending resources to go down to see him, was one of the first kids he saw during the evaluation period, which I think speaks volumes. I know, again, Texas A&M pushing. Oklahoma is another school in the South that's pushing for Bowen, and those two programs are probably in better spots than Michigan right now. But I think that the job that Klink does and his track record speaks for itself. And the fact that Bowen told me he is open to visiting Michigan kind of leaves that door open. So Malik Mohammed, Peyton Bowen, two guys to really track down in the Lone Star State. Again, guys, if you want to jump in, ask a question, feel free to do so. I'm just kind of running down some of the key stops, key recruitments where coaches have been this week as the evaluation period has opened up. So again, if you want to jump on, ask a question, you definitely can. But yeah, we'll just keep on kind of going through some of the bigger stops. Actually, it looks like we have a request from Owen Pustel. Hey, Owen, you can talk anytime you want.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How's it going, man?
It's going good. Thanks for asking. I was wondering if there's anyone you think we're close-ish to landing, or like anyone that we're in the solid lead for.
Yeah, I think if I had to choose one guy, like I have a if I had a toy gun in my head and I had to choose one guy, I would say Jair Hill might be a guy that Michigan could be close with. He's a prospect that's visited Michigan multiple times. He was recently on campus for a spring visit, and it seems like Michigan's making him more of a priority than probably any other school. And you see his cousin Nas Hill is in the space and liked my comments. But yeah, I do think Michigan's in a really good spot for Jair Hill. He had a great relationship with Ron Bellamy before Bellamy moved over to coaching wide receivers. Jay Harbaugh is now kind of taking the lead in that recruitment as well. But Bellamy still being involved, I think, helps. And, Michigan's done a really good job in Chicagoland. Kankakee is a little further south, but still, obviously, the state of Illinois has been kind to Michigan as of late. And with Hill being on campus multiple times, with the staff making him a top priority, I could see him being in the class, relatively soon. I mean, Jair doesn't have an exact timeline. I think he's said he wants to maybe take it into the summer, but I know Michigan would like to get him on board sooner rather than later. And he's a dynamic athlete as well. And I've said that word many times today, but when we're talking about Jair Hill, this is a kid I absolutely love. Michigan offered him fairly early before he was truly a big time prospect. He's risen in the rankings, now a top 300 prospect overall. This is a kid I went out to see. Um, I want to say it was around October when I first saw him, and he blew me away. I mean, he is a legit 6'3", about 180 pounds, lanky kid, junior Olympian in track. Actually, if you follow recruiting and you know the name Makari Vickers, who's a top 150 prospect, they competed head to head in the Junior Olympics, and Jair edged him out. So yeah, he's a terrific athlete. He played a little bit of everything: wide receiver, wildcat quarterback, corner, safety. I really like him as more of a safety guy, but I think he's also a guy you can put on the offensive side of the ball in certain packages and do a lot with. So Jair Hill is just a prospect that not a lot of people talk about, just with him being about an hour away from Chicago and not a lot of people making their way out this way to see him. But I've seen him live twice. I saw him in that game in October. I saw him in a playoff game later in the season. I believe it was the state semifinals. He led Kankakee to a run to the state title game. But I'm really, really high on Jair Hill. I know that was a super long-winded answer, Owen, but that's who I would go with as a potential next commit for Michigan. But again, that would be a great land for Michigan. Top 300 prospect, Midwest kid, versatile kid that can play a lot of positions, junior Olympian. So I mean, I can't say enough great things about Jair Hill. I will be seeing him here in a couple weeks. I'll either head back to Kankakee to check him out, or I'll see him in a 7-on-7 tournament here soon. But yeah, appreciate Owen for hopping on, asking that question. You guys can answer any question or not answer. You guys can ask any question you want. Just hop in, request to be a question person, and I will take your questions. But a couple more key stops that the staff has made on the road this week. Sharon Moore was out in Kansas City, made it a priority to go see on 300 offensive lineman Kadin Green. And with Kadin, it's been a Michigan-Oklahoma battle. I still feel like it's a Michigan-Oklahoma battle. Michigan's made him one of its top overall targets along the offensive line. He's actually a guy that is interesting from a rankings perspective. On3 dropped him pretty low. He's ranked the number 299 overall prospect in the country. Elsewhere, he's a top 100 prospect in the country. And I know that Michigan really values him as that top 100 type guy. They absolutely love him. Moore loves him. I'm on board with Sharon Moore and his evaluation. So I think Green is a phenomenal player. Now, a lot of ties to Oklahoma. His parents are originally from there. He was actually thinking about committing to Oklahoma from everything we've been able to gather before Lincoln Riley departed and spurned OU to go off to USC. Um, However, they kept the same offensive line coach, Bill Bedenbaugh, is still recruiting him. So that's something to watch. He's going to be back at Oklahoma for their spring game. He's made multiple visits there. But I think Sharon's done a really good job in this recruitment. I mean, the door was left a little open when Lincoln went off to USC, and Moore took full advantage, getting Michigan really involved in that recruitment. Green's been to campus twice. He's set to return to Ann Arbor for an official visit, but still, Oklahoma's been considered the leader for a while. Obviously, there's family ties to the state, and Oklahoma is scheduled to not only get him in this weekend for the spring game, but also for the final official visit in the summer. And so that obviously is very scary. Still remains a key heated battle. I mean, Michigan still feels they're very much capable of winning this recruitment, or they wouldn't be going out to see him and hosting him for an OV. So Green remains one of the top overall targets in the class. Just briefly, around some of the other stops, I thought Jay Harbaugh is doing it, or I thought Jay Harbaugh did a great job this week in St. Louis. St. Louis is an area that Michigan hasn't targeted very heavily in recent cycles since I've been on the beat. It's always been an area I said that Michigan should look at more. When I was on the Texas beat, Texas found plenty of success there and landed a couple of really highly touted prospects out of St. Louis. Notre Dame, I know, has had success in the area as well. So I definitely think Michigan is more than capable of landing guys out of St. Louis. So Jay Harbaugh stayed there for multiple days and made some offers out to underclassmen. They're working on 2023 safety Marvin Burks, who recently named Michigan a top school. So I think that area it could be kind to Michigan as well. George Hilo, Jesse Minter were out in Florida, saw Raylan Wilson, top 100 Michigan commit. And just to kind of share the latest on Raylan, obviously he's still committed to Michigan. He sided with the Wolverines in December, but Florida and Georgia have continued to push. Both Florida and Georgia received visits from him this spring. And look, I mean, it's going to be tough to keep him. He's a Tallahassee kid. Those SEC programs can, do a lot from an NIL perspective as well, but also offer a lot just from a pure program standpoint. Georgia being the defending national champions, Florida has a new staff, and they're selling that very hard. And obviously, Gainesville's not too far away from Tallahassee. Look, I mean, Hilo has Jacksonville ties or North Florida ties in general, Tallahassee being a North Florida city. He's a guy that is more than capable of landing top talent out of the region. He's done it in the past at his previous stops in Maryland. He's done it here at Michigan as well. Jesse Minter, I think it was important to get him out there to see Raylan Wilson. I know that Mike McDonald was heavily involved with Raylan, and he was a little disappointed to see McDonald make the jump back to the NFL so soon. So important for him to continue developing a relationship with Minter. He has a really strong bond with Hilo. I think it's going to be up to Hilo to really keep him in the class, and Michigan's fighting to do so. But Georgia and Florida, obviously, very scary threats to Michigan in that recruitment. So, I had an update on over on the Wolverine on the Fort message board. You can go check that out. $1 for 1 year over at the Wolverine for more exclusive recruiting information. One last thing from my end. So we're 1 minute away from 20 minutes. So if you guys have any questions, hop on now. If not, I'm going to get out of here. But one last thing that I wanted to mention is I wrote a big piece on Sound Mind, Sound Body here in Detroit. They do a phenomenal job of helping athletes in the city achieve their dreams, get exposure. I actually rode a bus from Detroit to Gatlinburg, Tennessee with Sound Mind, Sound Body. So some really cool information on the organization, some mini features on guys like Dante Moore and CJ Carr, who are big time Michigan targets, as well as Michigan wide receiver commit. Samaj Morgan kind of humanizes the recruits a little bit. So if you guys want to go check that out, please feel free to do so. And it looks like we have one speaker request before we get out of here, and it is Cody Frazier. What's up, Cody? You'll be the last guy I'll take a question from. Cody, I think you are on mute if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, got you.
Hey, you got any updates on Nicholas Harbor? I was just reading some stuff on him. I want to know if you had any inside information.
Yeah, definitely. We touched on Nicholas Harbor last week. Mike Elston was actually out in the DMV, which is one I should have obviously mentioned when talking about coaches on the road. But Elston was out on the trail in the DMV. Obviously, a lot of edge targets out there. Deshaun Womack, Joseph Mapoye, who's Harbor's teammate, and obviously Nick himself. With Nick, I think it's just a little slow with him right now, mostly because he's still competing in all these national track events. I mean, you guys have seen the viral videos of him running the 10.28 at his massive 6'5", 230-pound size. So he told me when I went out to visit him last month that it was going to be tough for him to make visits. He made a visit to USC not too long ago because it worked out with his track schedule to where he had to meet in Los Angeles, so he easily made his way over to USC. But right now his primary focus is on track. He is looking to make it to Michigan before the end of spring. If not, he'll definitely be on campus in the summer for an official visit. He told me Michigan's a lock to get one of his OVs. I really like where the Wolverines stand. He just seems like a Michigan kid. He's a really bright kid off the field from an academic standpoint. And I'll have a mini feature on Nicholas Harbor at some point in the next few days as well. Please give that a read. But yeah, I think Michigan's right up there. With schools like Maryland, which is the hometown school, making a big push. And he told me Maryland's going to be a lock to get an OV. Penn State, some of the SEC programs, obviously USC. I mean, he's a national guy, but I think Michigan offers everything he's looking for. He has ties to Michigan. With his private track coach, his athletic director are both Michigan grads. He has family in Michigan. His mother is originally from there, so a lot of pull to Michigan. And like I said, I think Michigan's in a great spot. Thanks, guys.